I think Jagaban has opened the eyes of the northern elite through this tax reform. Watch this video.
More than half of Nigerians are from the Northern Nigeria. Northern Nigeria's population is about 130 million people, which is more than the population of some 25 countries. The combined population of 25 countries, which means Northern Nigeria is more populous than some 25 countries in the world. Northern Nigeria contributes more than 70% of Nigeria's grains, millet, rice, maize, sorghum. More than 70% of Nigeria's grains are produced in Northern Nigeria, which makes the Northern Nigeria the agricultural hub for the country. And more than 90% of Nigeria's livestock are produced in the north, with vast stretches of arable land. Northern Nigeria covers more than 78% of the land mass of the country, which represents huge potential for commercial farming. Northern Nigeria has huge solid mineral deposits ranging from gold, limestone, uranium, tin, oil, gas, columbite, and so many other solid mineral resources. Unfortunately, this region, despite the vast potential, is still ravaged by poverty, with more than 60% of the people living in the north live below the poverty line. And this contributed to making Nigeria the 5th country in poverty count. More than 80% of the counted 20 million children out of school are from Northern Nigeria. Northern Nigeria ravaged by insecurity. In just 1 year, from 2023 to 2024, more than 600 people were killed. If you remember the massacre, the killings in Rwanda, there were just 800,000 people. But in 1 year in Nigeria, more than 600,000 people were killed, most of them from Northern Nigeria. More than 2 million people were kidnapped in just 1 year. Most of this happened in Northern Nigeria. With trillions of naira being spent to tackle insecurity, insecurity still lingers in Northern Nigeria, which rendered thousands of large-scale farmlands unproductive. Also putting the country at the risk of food insecurity. When it comes to maternal death, more than 60% of maternal deaths happen in Northern Nigeria, which is one of the highest in the world. And close to half of children in Northern Nigeria, they experience poor developmental growth, mental growth, and stunting due to malnutrition. And this also poses a threat for the future development. When it comes to birth rate, Nigeria is the 5th country in the world in terms of birth rate, and largely contributed by Northern Nigeria, which has an average birth rate of 5 children per woman. In terms of child street begging, Nigeria is 2nd after India, largely contributed by Northern Nigerian syndrome of child street begging. Sahara Desert is fast advancing at the speed of 600 meters per year. posing a threat to the livelihood of states like Sokoto, Borno, and Katsina states, which also affect the agricultural productivity of the northern Nigeria. Unemployment is on the rise. If you look at the count of states, the ranking of Nigerian states in terms of GDP contribution, the top 9 states, none of them is from the north. You talk about Lagos, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Imo states, Delta states, Anambra states, Ondo, Ogun, and Bayelsa. None of them is from northern Nigeria. The closest state that came to the top is Niger State, that came the 10th in terms of GDP contribution, which means majority of the GDP in Nigeria is not produced in northern Nigeria. What if northern Nigeria is a country? What is the GDP count of northern Nigeria? Most of the state governments heavily rely on the Federation Account Allocation Committee funds, which become their single lifeline. Reduce that, it affects their productivity and their development. And this represents huge challenge and risk to the development of the region. And because of the growing population, this little resources is overstretched and is becoming inadequate. With each set of generation, they are 1.5 times more than their preceding generation. If you look at the generation from 10 years below, they are 1.5 times more than the generation between the age of 20 and 10 years old in northern Nigeria, further stretching the need for more resources for development. Without it, the development of this ever-growing population is not guaranteed. With our agriculture being under-mechanized and access to finance is limited, especially due to our culture and our faith, which has been alluded earlier on, that due to interest rates, or rather interest, northern Nigerians are excluded financially. Financial exclusion is one of the major hindrances to even agricultural development, because as far as I am concerned too, interest is haram. And there is no justification for you to collect interest in the name of doing agriculture. So we should not be only limited to Jaiz Bank when it comes to funding businesses. We should have banks like the Bank of Industry, Bank of Agriculture, and all these development banks providing free interest grants or loans. Because we are people of religion. And if there is no religious inclusivity in our policies, in our system, in our agencies, then Nigeria, northern Nigeria, will always be left behind. Because Nigeria cannot develop without the north. The development of Nigeria is largely dependent on northern Nigeria. Develop the north, you develop the nation. And anything that affects it, affects the entire country. And there is an urgent need to rescue northern Nigeria. And to do that, we need to start the journey of rapid development. And this journey, I believe, starts here today, in this venue, and with these people. Because it's not about our numbers. It's not about our conviction. It's about our passion. It's about our actions. And what I like about these agendas is that it encompasses all aspects of development. And it represents the need to have a unanimous development agenda in northern Nigeria. Development in northern Nigeria must be unanimous and must be concurrent. One state cannot be pushing for development and the other is not. We must unanimously agree on one course and together drive toward that. It's a single journey, it's a single destination, it's a single bus with passengers all in that one bus. And that's why I believe in these goals that is called Northern